Selecting an insurance provider for your business is a big decision.
With over 26 years of experience, our offered team is your solution for quality and proven coverage.
The customer service you remember from years ago is what we pride our team on.
We know how important your company is to the community.
From small businesses to large businesses, Alford & Associates can manage your insurance. It's our job.
Alford & Associates, benefiting your employees and protecting your business.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Bayou Time News. I'm Martin False. Well, the CPRA came to Terrebonne Parish, and we all hear about the CPRA, but what does it do really? The Coastal Protection Restoration Authority. Well, we know about it. It's so recognized now because we have two of our own leaders of the past that are really high up on that board. Gordy Dove is the chair of that prestigious board. Tony Alford also represents Governor Jeff Landry on that board. We also have Representative Jerome Zarang. We have others from the area that are on the board. You'll see that in just a second. But it is a very prominent board doing great things for our community. Now, I must say before we start this meeting that Governor Jeff Landry has really unleashed all kinds of things with this board in hopes that we can protect the entire coastline of Louisiana. So first of all, thank you to Governor Jeff Landry because he had the foresight to put, I call him the pit bull and the bulldog. He put Gordy Dove and Tony Alford on that board. So Governor Landry recognizes the fact that we have to do something about coastal restoration. And not that we didn't do anything before, but he certainly recognizes the fact that we need a comprehensive, total plan when we're dealing with hurricanes that threaten us here in Louisiana. So thanks to Governor Jeff Landry for making this happen. So there's a long history of trying to get protection here in Louisiana. If you can recall, in 2005, I, along with Jimmy DeGate, we hosted the Time for Action. It was at the Civic Center. We had all kind of prominent people getting on the mic and talking about what just happened, Katrina and Rita. We had Governor Blanco that came down and promised $10 million. She delivered. But it started recognition of what was taking place here in the area, how vulnerable we were to coastal invasions by hurricanes and storms and even tropical events, smaller ones in nature. Today, well, we have a big comprehensive program that has swept through, and it has been really come leaps and bounds from where we first started on this journey. The people of Terrebonne Parish tax themselves. And I think that's what got the attention of many people in the state. We had a little skin in the game. And it also just recently got some attention from the federal government as now they call it the cavalry. The cavalry is coming around. But thanks to all those state leaders early on that got involved, thanks to the people who helped tax themselves for better coastal protection. And really, it is something to see. When you tour the levees, water control structures, quite a sight to see. So what we're going to do today, we're going to run this entire meeting on Facebook and YouTube so you can see everything that takes place during this meeting. If you have the time, please watch the whole thing. We have reports from everybody in your area. We also have reports from the Corps of Engineers. And this is something you need to know about, especially your children, because we want them to live here in the area, come back and live here. And they have to know that they will be protected on our coastlines. Once again, thanks, Governor Jeff Landry, for having the foresight to make this happen. And thanks to our CPRA for also being so aggressive on protecting our coastline. We now go to that meeting recently held at the Civic Center here in Terrebonne Parish.
Welcome. Welcome, everyone. What a great crowd. Thank y'all all for coming. I'm Gordon Dove, Chairman of the Coastal Protection Restoration Authority Board. And first thing, would you please silence all cell phones? And with that, we're going to call to order, and we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'd like it started by Mr. Sue with the levee board, who is a Korean War veteran. Mr. Sue, would you start us off? Everyone rise with the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Sue Henry.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And with that, let's give a round of applause to Mr. Sue, a Korean War veteran who actually fought in the war. Thank you, Mr. Sue. God bless you. With that, the roll call.
Chairman Dove,
Present.
Mr. Davidson,
Present.
Mr. Garrett,
Present.
Ms. Giacometto, Ms. Campo, Lieutenant Governor Nungesser, Mr. Alford,
Here.
Ms. DeCastro, Congressman Gao, Mr. Jordan, Mr. Bourgeois,
Here.
Mr. Hidalgo, Ms. Cormier, Mr. Carville,
Here.
Mr. Lane,
Here.
Representative Zarang,
Here.
Senator Hinskins. You have a quorum.
Okay, if we have a quorum. Approval of the agenda. We have a motion.
Motion right here.
Okay, motion, I'd like to, you can do the motion. Okay, approval of the agenda. Could we have a motion, we have a second, all in favor? All right, any opposed? None, that motion passes.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we deviate from the agenda to move item 9 up to this current spot in the agenda, if we will, please.
All in favor? That motion passes. Approval of the minutes?
No, sir, you need to go to number 9. Go to 9.
Oh, okay, excuse me. Okay, and we're going to move to number 9, presentation of the 2024 R. King Milling Distinguished Coastal Service Award. Mr. King Milling and his wife, thank y'all very much for coming. King, thank you for so much what you've done for the coast and Louisiana. God bless you and your family, and we're going to go ahead and read this off and present the King Milling Award. This is the second annual one. Thank you very much for coming. Mr. Alford will read it off.
All right. Today, the Coastal Protection Restoration Authority Board, CPRA, presented the R. King Milling Distinguished Coastal Service Award to Reggie Dupre, Executive Director of the Terrebonne Levee and Conservation District. The award was established in 2022 to honor individuals or organizations epitomizing Milling's unwavering support for the state's coastal program. Over a span of more than 2 decades, Milling became one of the earliest and most effective advocates for protecting Louisiana's coast. His efforts brought attention to coastal land loss issues and emphasized the urgent need to prioritize science and engineering in developing solutions. Reggie Dupre has been a lifelong steward for coastal protection and restoration, much like King Milling, said CPRA Chairman Gordy Dove. His commitment to Louisiana's coastal program and the people of South Louisiana is unmatched. The work Reggie has done in his decades of service will continue to positively impact the people of Terrebonne and Lafourche parishes for generations to come. I can think of no one more deserving of this honor than my dear friend and colleague, Reggie Dupre. Dupre spent over 21 years as an elected official in South Louisiana, serving as a member of the Terrebonne Parish Council from 1988 to 1996. The Louisiana House of Representatives District 53 from 1996 to 2001, and the Louisiana State Senator for District 20 from 2001 to 2009. While While representing Terrebonne and Lafourche parishes in public service, Dupre elevated coastal and hurricane protection issues under 3 Louisiana governors. Terrebonne Levee and Conservation District President Tony Alford hired Dupre from his Senate seat to serve as the district's executive director in 2009. During his 15 years with Terrebonne Levee and Conservation District, Dupre has overseen over $1 billion of state and locally funded flood control improvements for the Terrebonne-Lafourche region. Dupre became the second recipient of the award given annually to an individual or organization selected by the CPRA board chairman from a list of nominees meeting the board's rigorous criteria. The inaugural award was presented last year to Mark Wingate, who served as Deputy District Engineer for Programs and Project Management for the U.S. Corps of Engineers, New Orleans District. Reggie Dupre.
If I may say a few words about this. First, we couldn't have picked a better person than you have today. She's done so much for all of us. And I should take a second step about this and say to all of you, delighted to be back into this community. I was here for a long time. Enjoyed the work very much. But what is most important right now is that it's how necessary it is that not just in this parish and these parishes throughout Louisiana, needs to start screaming. Because we've got some people in Baton Rouge that I don't think have a clue what this is about. And that's not good for us or good for anyone else. They need to understand it, and we need to be there to push. I hope I haven't overstepped myself.
Thank you. This is the black thing. Inside the CPRA, which you're the second one. You want to hold that to the camera? Y'all back this way. Yeah.
Suck it in.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to say a few brief words. I came here today to make my last Morganza presentation and to donate y'all back an award, 2 awards that were given to me in 2009, 15 years ago, which at the beginning of the presentation we'll do. But this board, CPRA board, and the staff, and y'all dedicated funding source represents my lifelong legacy. You know, and basically I'm going to tell you how I came to know King Milling. In 1995, I wrote a letter to Governor Mike Foster, Governor-elect Mike Foster. He wanted to know from all the incoming legislators, what's the top issue facing the state of Louisiana? So I wrote hurricane protection and coastal restoration. So Governor Foster calls me right in November of 2005 and says, Reggie, I have 144 letters on my desk, and only one person answered hurricane protection and coastal restoration. So you are going to be my floor leader on coastal activities. I said, well, thank you very much, Governor. So that's kind of how a young fat boy from Pointe-à-Cher, very shy, got to be the leader of this. Then he tells me, he says, I'm going to introduce you to this banker who's also a lawyer in New Orleans by the name of King Milling. And together, y'all going to start to move these policies forward. So that's when we met King. The first meeting of the advisory board was in Houma at the Whitney, I think it was the First National back then. Fast forward 10 years, Hurricane Katrina and Rita. Worst disaster in the history of this state, maybe of this country. And then Scott Angel and I began discussing the concept of consolidation and integration of coastal protection and restoration under one executive level branch. So then Governor Blanco called 4 of us to her office. She called DNR Secretary Scott Angel, DOTD Secretary Johnny Bradbury, and I. We went to her office, but she told her 2 secretaries, I need 5 minutes alone with Reggie, with Senator Dupre before we get into the meat and potatoes of this issue. So she said something to me that day that I've never repeated, but I think I want to let you know what kind of dedicated person Governor Kathleen Blanco was. She tells me, she said, Reggie, you know that this hurricane was the worst we've ever seen. We've lost over 1,500 lives. And if y'all remember, she was getting beat up in the national media terribly, in state media. She says, I might not survive this politically. I may be a one-term governor. However, she said, we need to do what's best for the people. Then she says, I want you to handle this concept on these coastal bills. And then I also told her about the idea of dedicating offshore oil and gas revenues and putting it in the Constitution. She says, well, we're going into special session in November of '05, and we're going to put both of those issues on the call of the special session. So those are my 2, I think, most important legislative achievements, and y'all will live on and for generations to come on one of the best plans and programs, I think, in the United States of America. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Reggie, for everything you've done. And it's been an honor and a pleasure for myself to serve with you. We were both chairmen of Natural Resources and Environment. You on the Senate, me on the House. Also the CPRA board in its original. And I see Senator Norby Jabert, who served with both of us back here, and of course Jerome Zarang, who took my place after I became parish president of Terrebonne. But thank you for everything you've done. It's been, I know you're retiring. I wish you well in your retirement, and it's well deserved. Thank you, Mr. Milling and King Milling and wife and niece. Thank y'all so much for coming and everything you've done. And if there's any other comments from any board members, Jerome Zarang, Representative Jerome Zarang.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, I couldn't think of a more deserving individual. And it's doubly enjoyable to see King here. Again, the person that this award is named after. Thank you so much, and the work that you've done to get us where we are. And his lovely wife saying, good to see you both here. But Reggie, you and I go way back, like Gordy and Tony and all of us who have been working on this for so long. And we talk about how this region wouldn't be as far advanced in terms of this project. But quite frankly, and you mentioned that the state wouldn't be where it is because of the impact that you had in dedicating coastal dollars and pushing the effort of coastal restoration and protection, not just for this region, but for the state. And we will always be internally grateful for your efforts. This legacy that you've established in terms of flood protection is an example, not only for us, but for the state and for the nation. In fact, I just got back from the Netherlands, and Morganza is on their lips. They're familiar with CPRA. They know about what we're doing because they are emulating a lot of the things that we're doing. And through your efforts and through your work, we've been able to accomplish a lot, and we appreciate all you've done, and Godspeed, and thank you for what you've done for this region and the state.
Thank you, Representative Zarang. Mr. Bourgeois.
Well, Reggie, this is certainly well-deserved, and I can't think of anybody who's more deserving of it. I just want to thank you publicly here. I've thanked you a lot all along the years because you've meant so much to me and so much guidance to me and things when I first started doing this. I think the thing that strikes me the most about Reggie that you guys may not recognize is how creative he is with certain aspects of things, and how many conversations have started with the phrase, what if we did this? And until someone said no, at which point he would have just said, okay, that's an interesting opening position. So now we'll move on past no into something else. So I just wanted to point that out, that all of this work that you've observed him doing comes from that creativity and thinking outside the box, and something that I've tried to emulate, but I'm not the master. But now that due to your retirement, I'm the old guy in the Levee District Club now, so thanks for that.
I'll go ahead and make a comment. You know, made some pretty fair decisions with Marganza going back, and made some really good ones. And, you know, when years ago when I talked to you and you were still in the Senate, 2 years left on your term, and was able to convince you to come take a job as Executive Director of Terrebonne Levee and Conservation, was one of my really good moves. And you meant a lot to this parish, you meant a lot to this state, second what Z says. You know, you've changed some laws, you've had some great bills take place in the legislature, and you've done some really unbelievable things with the levee board. And, you know, we made some great things happen, and plenty more to happen, but it's time for you to go enjoy life. You know, Yvonne has served her time too, and you guys go have a good time, and we'll call you back to tell us what to do every now and then. And congratulations, and thank you, King.
And you know, with that, you know, Reggie, you know, and Tony, we built 75, 80 miles of levees with permits and mitigation. I'm looking at the Corps when I say that. And I think only one cease and desist, huh, Reggie? Well, we had just one cease and desist? No comment. But it was forgiven, I believe. So, and with that, motion, any other board members? Any other members? Okay, yes, sir.
Very well deserved, Reggie. I just want to highlight, you know, a lot of people talk about some of the things that you've done in the past to get this program to where it is, but I want to personally thank you. As a young congressional staffer, when I first got involved in this stuff, I was told that I needed to make the trip down to Houma and talk with you and get a little bit of history of everything that's going on. And I think about 4 hours later, I found myself driving back to New Orleans with my head spinning and a ton of questions, but from that moment on, you've never hesitated to answer the phone, talk through some ideas with me, and not only have you gotten this program to where it is today, but you've inspired myself and many other younger folks getting involved in this to be a little bit more proactive and look forward into the future. So, you know, I personally want to thank you on behalf of my generation, and really want to, you know, highlight the fact that you've played a pivotal role not only here in the state, but at the federal level of advancing our mission as well. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. And any other comments? With that, I need a motion to move back to regular agenda.
So moved.
So moved. All in favor? And King, thank you for so much, so well coming. So thank you so much for coming, and God bless you and your family.
Really enjoyed it. Seeing all of you.
Thank you, y'all. Yeah. Thank you, Ms. King. Standing applause. Okay, and with that, we had deviated from the regular agenda, so I would ask the parish president, Jason Bergeron, to come give a welcoming to the CPRA and to the public. We have a mic. Where's my parish president, Jason Bergeron.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here and what I consider the epicenter of the place that needs coastal protection and restoration. Congrats to Reggie. It's interesting to see somebody that's going out of his career and myself coming into my career, complete opposite ends of the spectrum. But I really thank all your service and everybody in here that serves this board, everybody that served the Terrebonne Parish to give us the protection that we need. And so, you know, when I look at the work that's been done in this recent water event, we have a lot of work to do. You know, it really shows how vulnerable we are, and that as much hard work and effort and money and things that we put into the systems that are in place, that we still got some work to do and some projects to finish that gives us the ultimate level of protection. And then we also need to build back our coast. And so, again, I thank you all for being here in the good earth. thank Gordy and Tony for the work you've done with the levee district and getting the levees where they are so that we can protect our residents and allow me to work on things like quality of life and some other projects that we need to do in our parish. So again, thank y'all for being here. And if you get a little time in the down the hall, we have an esports camp going on, which is taking our younger generation and giving them skills and tools to be prepared to lead in the future. So if you have a chance, go check that out. Thank you.
Thank you, President Bergeron. And with that, I need approval of the minutes. Motion to approve the minutes. Dwayne, all in favor? Any public comments on the minutes? No objections? Motion passes. Any announcements, old business by the members? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move to the CPRA implementation update. Glenn Leday, CPRA Executive Director, which is Glenn Leday.
Thank you, Chairman Dove, members of the board. Appreciate, as always, the opportunity to give y'all an implementation update of everything that we've got going on at CPRA. This was a busy month, and so excited to kind of showcase everything that we've been doing. We'll give, obviously, a brief update on some key projects that we've got going on, particularly in this area, and then talk to you about all the activities that took place over the last 30 days since our last board meeting. So the first thing, as always, we showcase this slide to showcase all the active projects that we have at CPRA. As you can see, 107 active projects. Right now, you know, we're kind of in an upward tick of some of the peak activity that we have along our coast. And so working towards trying to get to 135 projects as demonstrated in our FY25 annual plan. But it's really a tremendous number of projects. We've got 43 in construction, 59 in engineering and design, and the additional 5 in planning. And as you can see, that's demonstrated in the master plan and in our annual plan. It takes all different types of projects to help protect and restore our coast. So you can see all those different types listed there, with the obviously the majority being hurricane protection and marsh creation to restore habitat along our coast. And so exciting to showcase all the activity that's going on. As you know, we demonstrate in the annual plan, we're continuously working to implement more and more percentage of our dollars in construction. And so this fiscal year, we have roughly 80% working towards the next 2 fiscal years where we're trying to get up to almost 90% of the money we spend is actually implementing projects in construction. So it's really phenomenal to see this program grow. Another thing that we've been trying to showcase to the board and to the public is our construction updates. And so we've got a number of those today just to feature some of these projects, a couple of projects that just got kicked off and others that we will be bidding soon. And so the first of these projects that have been recently kicked off is the North Vermilion Bay Shoreline Protection Project. This is a segmented rock breakwater system along the northern sections of Vermilion Bay. This is work that we're funding through surplus as well as Go Mesa. We provided funding to Vermilion Parish through an intergovernmental agreement at almost $9.2 million, and they've initiated that project. In addition to that, we've got a hurricane protection project, the Sunset Levee segment of the Upper Barataria Risk Reduction Project. This is a project that we're working with the Lafourche Basin Levee District on and provided funds through Go Mesa, and they have kicked off that project. They had a groundbreaking just about a month and a half ago on that project, and it's exciting to see that moving. That's some of the first interim work that's being done on the federal Upper Barataria Risk Reduction Project that is being led by the Corps with CPRA as the non-federal sponsor and the local levee district, the Lafourche Basin Levee District. In addition to that, we have a project in the Atchafalaya Basin that's part of our basin program. That's in Point Capee. That's a hydrologic restoration project that we've provided some funding to through an intergovernmental agreement to Point Capee Parish, and they have kicked that project off as well. We've got 2 projects that we will be bidding soon, East Delacroix Marsh Creation and Terracing. This is a QIPRA project that we hope to advertise pretty soon and then open bids within the next 6 months. And that's a project that CPRA is leading and working with our federal sponsor, NOAA, on that project. But it's a really exciting QIPRA project that provides marsh creation and terracing in the East Delacroix area. And then also we have, as you see, the St. Charles Parish Crawford Canal Sunset Pump Station being led by one of our local partners, St. Charles Parish, and we're providing funding there through an intergovernmental agreement as well. And so they will be opening bids on that project soon. Two other updates I want to tell you about. The first is the Maurepas reintroduction, river reintroduction into Maurepas Swamp. That project, as we've talked a lot about, has received a large restore grant. It's also the work-in-kind credit for the West Shore Lake Pontchartrain project, and it's also the mitigation for that project. And so an exciting announcement this afternoon at 2 p.m., we will be opening bids on the first reach of that, which is reach 6 of the Maurepas River reintroduction project. And so we'll update the board on that next month, but an exciting announcement on that project. In addition to that, you may have seen in the media the Mid-Barataria sediment diversion. We restarted construction there through a modified stop work order with Plaquemines Parish, and we'll be getting kicked off on the major early works activities that need to take place on that project as we work through with Plaquemines on the challenges on the permit. And so an exciting announcement there, getting kicked off on some major early works that need to take place on that project. And so just a lot going on the construction side, but we like to highlight some of these activities to the board every month, and we'll continue to do so.
Weights and Downer. You or someone you know has lost the ability to earn a living because someone put the company interests before their well-being. In times like these, there's one firm who has handled hundreds of catastrophic and lost earning cases. Before you settle fast with a company's attorney, give Weights and Downer a call. 985-876-0870. Weights and Downer. Let us fight for your rights.
In addition to that, want to provide some exciting engineering and design updates before we get into the two projects that we featured this month. The first is the West Bell Headland repair work. And so we provided some updates during our fiscal 2025 annual plan presentations. But this is one of the first beach restoration and headland restoration projects that we're working with FEMA through a PW process, public works process, to get reimbursement for the damages after Hurricane Ida. So it's an exciting item there that we're able to do with FEMA. We're working through the final agreements there, as well as working with the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management on the marine minerals lease for the sand that we're going to be using for the federal offshore sand component to restore that headland. And so we'll have some key updates for the board over these next 2 months. There'll be a lot of activity there, and we're hoping to get to construction here pretty soon, but certainly within fiscal year 25. And then in addition to that, one of the large projects that you'll be hearing a lot about over the next several months is the Chandelier Islands Restoration Project. That's a large-scale restoration project in the Chandelier Islands that's funded with Deepwater Horizon dollars. We'll be giving a large update to the board next month on that, but right now the alternative design analysis is underway, and we're taking several field trips and site visits to the island to showcase that to our stakeholders and partners. That's a project, it's a partnership project that's a partnership between both CPRA and Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries, as well as on the federal side with U.S. Fish and Wildlife. So it's really a multi-agency and state and federal project. So it's an exciting project, and we look forward to updating the board in more detail on that project next month. With that, we wanted to highlight two key projects that we have underway at CPRA that are in construction and completing construction. And so the first one is right here in Terrebonne Parish. It's the HNC Bird Island Restoration Project. This is really an exciting project that we're kicking off now. As you can see over the history here that's showcased between 1998 and present, that island has suffered a lot of damage. It underwent some work, but we're trying to restore it to its original size and nature. And so we've got some good activity going on there. As you can see, that island continues to subside. And so the birds that are using that for habitat will eventually lose that island if nothing is done, as well as the protection and resiliency that it provides to Terrebonne Parish is critical. And so with that, this is one of the key bird island projects that were funded out of the NERDA, the Natural Resources Damage Assessment dollars coming from the Deepwater Horizon settlement. This is our third bird island project that we are building with a partnership with Wildlife and Fisheries. The first was the Queen Bess Island, second being Rabbit Island. This is the third. Both of those projects have been completed and have been widely successful, and so we're excited about the potential here. And so just want to give you a snapshot of some of the summary features and layout of this project. The first is we're going to be building over 35 acres of a variety of habitats, as you can see in that snapshot here on the screen, with a little over 225,000 cubic yards of material from an offshore state borrow area. And so you can see there we're building all different types of projects, anywhere from marsh protection components to marsh nourishment. We've got additional marsh and shrub habitats, as well as ground nesting habitats for birds in this area. We also have the protection components to try to maintain this island for suitable habitat for a long time. We've got the refurbishment of those existing perimeter rock dikes, as well as the proposed new rock dikes to complete the island. And so really exciting. You've got a number of other breakwater projects that we've got in there as well. This project could not happen without partners in industry. And so we've got local companies working on this project. We have All South Consulting Engineers on the design as well as the construction administration side. And then we have Weeks through their Covington office that's doing the construction work. So it's exciting to see all of the local industry that supports us on these projects. In addition to that, we have the Bayou Terrebuff Ridge Restoration Project, the third phase of this project, and this is in St. Bernard Parish. This is another critical project, but it was funded through a variety of sources, both state dollars, both through NIFWIF as well as Restore, those two components from the Deepwater Horizon spill at a little over $6.5 million. But this project contained a rock revetment as well as some plantings. And so I'll go through and kind of showcase that. As you can see here, we planted over 10,000 trees on this project, including bald cypress, red maple, and sugarberry saplings, and restored over up to 68 acres of ridge restoration. We also put 17,800 tons of armor stone to complete a shoreline stabilization for the rock revetment component of this project to provide resiliency to the Bayou Terrebuff Ridge. And so it's really a critical project. We've got all of these 10,000 trees were just planted here over the last month, and the rock work was completed earlier this year. And so this is a video that you can see that our office took here. And I'll let it play to showcase the area that we're protecting there. And then you can see all of those saplings that were planted, those white protections for the trees. And then this is the shoreline protection components. But as we do on a variety of other projects, it's trying to protect that habitat that you see there from eroding, and then protecting that area, that community, from further erosion. So these projects are critical, and we'll continue to do those and update the board every month. So you can see those 10,000 plantings there. It's kind of hard to see the white stakes. And as I mentioned, couldn't do it without both our local partners at St. Bernard Parish as well as industry. Additionally, we've got a lot of locals involved in this project. Rigid Constructors built the rock revetment feature. Royal Engineers performed the engineering and design, and ELOS is performing the environmental monitoring work all locally. So exciting to see industry partner with us to do these projects. And then, as I mentioned in the intro of the presentation, we had a lot of key meetings and other activities that took place over this last month, and so wanted to highlight that to the board. The first being our Shores fly-in to Washington, D.C. And so, as the board remembers, as we update, this is the Sharing Offshore Revenues from Energy Sources Coalition. Neil McMillan is going to give really all of the details on this later in his presentation. But just want to highlight, this was our biggest fly-in that we've ever had. We had 83 members in attendance. We had over 105 meetings that took place with 31 states and 2 territories. But just want to say thank you. Thanks for everybody that provided support. We had a number of the board that were present, levy districts, parish presidents, parish workers, our supporters, our stakeholders, our sponsors. Really everybody came in attendance, and so we really appreciate. I know that we all have busy schedules and it's hard to get away, but as you can see here, had a lot of great meetings and really a lot of good momentum in DC for this initiative. And so really exciting. Secretary Gray was there, Chairman Dove, as well as Secretary Sheehan from Wildlife and Fisheries. And so just really a great fly-in. Neil McMillan will give you the updates on the meetings and some of the takeaways, but really just wanted to say thank you for all the support. Another meeting that just took place tied to energy and energy revenue sharing was the Western Caucus Foundation. Myself, President Matthew Jewell in St. Charles Parish, as well as Neil McMillan and CPRA, took the Western Caucus Foundation on a tour of Davis Pond and then gave a presentation on what we do here in our coastal program and why energy and energy revenue sharing is important to us and why it's critical for the nation. And so we were able to provide that update to them, and we had over 38 staffers and congressional members come in. And so it was good to kind of share that same message with them on how important this revenue is to our coastal program and to protecting the communities that do work on energy, commercial fisheries, and navigation. And so got a lot of good feedback, and we'll continue to spread that message. The other important meeting that we had this past month was a tour by the United States Army Corps of Engineers of the Old River Control Structure up in Morganza. And so we were able to engage in that with Governor Landry and provide him with a critical tour of all the work that goes on there. The Corps of Engineers provided an overview of the Old River Control Structure. We visited that, the low sill structure, the Morganza spillway, as well as the hydraulic dam there, and then also provided an update on the initiation of that Lower Mississippi River comprehensive study that the Corps is initiating now. And so that's that critical five-year, $25 million study that the Corps is leading to evaluate all of the Lower Mississippi River operation. And so really a great update. Myself and Chairman Dove were able to attend and provide feedback on all of the work that's going on there with that Lower Mississippi River comp study. And so we'll be continuing to update the board on that study. We've got a key scoping meeting coming up on July 10th, and we'll update the board on those activities next month. The other event that we got to participate in is the new Natural Resources Steering Commission. We had the first meeting that took place. Chairman Dove is also the chairman of this committee. Various members from CPRA, including myself, engaged in the implementation working group. Our CFO, Janice Lansing, engaged in the finance and management work group, and board member Dustin Davidson and Chief of Staff Dustin Davidson also engaged in the boards and commissions work group, and we got to provide good feedback to the commission as we initiate this this new task force. And so there'll be additional meetings there, but just wanted to highlight the activity there. And in addition to that, just last month, we had the quarterly Governor's Advisory Commission meeting. Myself and other members of CPRA got to provide updates to Chairman Alford and the commission on the activities that have been going on since the beginning of the year, and good dialogue about various activities along the coast. And just wanted to continue to highlight a lot of the good activities that we have on grants and other programs that we run at the at CPRA. The one that you may have seen yesterday or earlier this week is the Restore Act Center of Excellence. And this is the third round of grants for Louisiana awards. Nearly $4 million were awarded in funding coastal research. And this is a partnership between CPRA and the Water Institute of the Gulf that we manage. You can see there were 12 awards there. You've got activity across the coast on a variety of universities, including work that's being done at Nichols on Flotone Marsh. And so a lot of good work there that all goes into one, providing updates to CPRA that we can utilize in master planning efforts as well as implementation. And so as we continue to make those awards, we'll continue to update the board. But really great work that's going on across our coast on a variety of universities. Then another great update is the progress on the Coastal Center at Nichols. And as you can see on these photos, the building is flying up. We've got good activity that's taking place. We are also working with the Office of Facility Planning on the build out of the CPRA and the Governor's Office of Coastal Activities floor. And so we're designing that with the architects and trying to get that out to bid as well. But the work that's ongoing now is going well and should be finished by the end of the year. As you can see there, we have our partners at Nichols as well as industry. Ratcliffe Companies is constructing the building, and DDG is doing the architecture work for the state of Louisiana. So again, really good to see local companies doing the work that is critical to our coast. And then finally, we've had quite a number of foreign delegation visits that have visited our LSU Center for Rivers Studies. And so just want to highlight this. This is that partnership that we have with LSU. Both myself and other members of CPRA have worked with Dr. Clint Wilson, who's the new dean of the LSU School of Coast and the Environment, on giving all of these delegations visits of that really awesome facility that we have next door to our building at Baton Rouge. And so we've had members of the delegation from Vietnam. We worked with the Corps of Engineers and took them on a tour of Davis Pond, as well as I was able to tour them with Dr. Wilson at the Center for River Studies. And so just exciting to see everybody really coming and engaging and seeing the importance of the work we do, but also taking those lessons learned back to the delegations they come from. And so really exciting, wanted to highlight that to the board as well. But with that, as always, to finish, we can connect with us on social media or on our website, or our communications team, who does a fantastic job putting these slides together. And so thank you for listening to this update, and happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Any question, members? Yes, sir.
A great presentation, Glenn. I really appreciate it. I'd like to make a note of something. If you can go back to the Terabuff.
Yep.
On that drone footage, I would just like, right there, I would just like to point out that green space there where that 10,000 trees are planted in 2016, that was a 65-acre marsh creation funded through CAP, but that was all completely open water at that one point. So I think it's just nice to show the compliments just 8 years later. This marsh is sustainable, and it's able to take a planting on 10,000 trees to complement another project. So I know that project has some green infrastructure on it, and it just so happened we could combine it with that one. So I just wanted to make a note of that. Also, I want to point out, for those who's not really familiar with the Chandelier Islands, and I hope I'm not stealing any thunder from possibly next month's presentation, but on the website, there is a wonderful video, CPRA's website, there's a wonderful video about the Chandelier Islands. And I encourage everyone to go take a look at that. It's wonderfully done. I'm not sure who did it, but it is fantastic. So I just want to bring that to everyone's attention.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Lane. Yeah, in fact, we will be showing that to the board next month, but you're right, it's a great presentation that our team put together. working with folks. And so excited to do that. But yeah, as you can see here, and things we've mentioned in the last 2 board meetings is as we start building these projects and continuing to build on them and enhance them, I think we'll see a lot of great things happen along our coast.
Any other? Yeah, yes, sir. Representative Serene. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Glenn, this is the first meeting we've had since the announcement of the mid-barrier lifting of the stay. And obviously, it's one of the biggest projects that CPRA has undertaken. Just, could you tell us what that means and where are we with that?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, you're right. This is the first meeting since that announcement. One of the big things, as we work through some of the challenges that with Plaquemines Parish, we do have a lot of temporary work that is for large projects like this that takes a long time to construct. And so we were able to work with them to modify the stop work order to start those activities. So examples of that are a major coffer dam at the Mississippi River right to build the headwork structure. We have temporary detours of Louisiana State Highway 23 and other features of the project that have a long lead time and a tremendous amount of work that needs to be done. So we're able to start that work while continuing that dialogue with Plaquemines Parish.
So I guess the important thing is while those discussions are continuing, the project is starting and moving forward.
That's correct. Yep.
Good deal. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, and Representative Zarang, what I'd like to add is so the public will understand, it's a very limited permit that was issued by Plaquemines, and the major things are the access road and the coffer dam while we're working on the other avenues and working it out with Plaquemines. And so it's a very limited permit that they issued, but they did start the coffer dam, the access road, and I think some utilities and other things. So that's where we at right now. So I just wanted to add that. Any other questions? I'd also like to add, you know, it's going to be very nice here. We're going to have 5,000, like he said earlier, 5,000 square feet at the Coastal Center at Nichols. CPRA and the board will have 5,000 square feet of offices. So we'll have a large presence at Nichols State. And another thing you're going to see up in the upcoming, we are very aggressive on the barrier islands in Terrebonne, Lafourche, Iberia, all the way to Cameron Parish, back to St. Tammany. We, you know, for years our islands are eroding, so we're very aggressive on that, and we will be announcing it later as we progress with these barrier islands in these segmented breakwater rocks that we're looking at, and other avenues of rebuilding these barrier islands, which is to fortify the coast, as we announced when the governor first appointed me, and so we're moving forward with that. So, you know, I know a lot of people ask me, what are we doing with the barrier islands? Well, they definitely on the top of the radar, and we're moving in. We do have an IGA with the Corps of Engineers on Grand Isle, which we're moving forward with, and so we're working with everyone on that to really move forward on the barrier islands. With that, we have any other questions? Glenn, you wrap it up?
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate the time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Glenn Leday, Executive Director of the CPRA. And with that, I'd like to move to Reggie Dupre, the Terrebonne Levee and Conservation District presentation. And then we're going to have Dwayne Bourgeois, Nicholas Betherne, and the U.S. Corps of Engineers following up. So with that, Reggie Dupre, Director of the Terrebonne Levee and Conservation District.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, I came here under the pretext of giving my last Morganza to the Gulf presentation before the person replacing me will be named Monday, and I want to introduce her. Angela Hidalgo has been my assistant for the last 15 years. She was hired by Z 22 years ago when he was Executive Director of Terrebonne Levee District. So I will be making that recommendation, and she will be taking my place. And I do have some presentation to make, but first I want to, you know, this is about Morganza to the Gulf now. This is not about me, it's about we. It's been a big, big effort led by my board president, Tony Alfred, very, very passionate Italian Cajun who does not know the meaning of the word no. You know, and we give him a slight hint that maybe if we do X, Y, Z, he said, that means a yes. So we're going to do it. So, Colonel, please pass on to Colonel Jones. Effective Monday, cease and desist orders need to be addressed to Angela Hidalgo, not Reggie Dupre. Because I think he's coming Monday to give me the award for the Breaking Windows Award for the most cease and desist orders. So, ladies and gentlemen, as I cleaned out my office in the last few days, there's two items I want to give back to CPRA. So in 2009, in my final days at the Senate, then Chairman Garrett Graves presented me the Founders Award for CPRA, and that's what Angela's holding. Then my colleagues on the Senate Natural Resources Committee started questioning me, what's the most important bill that I passed in my 14 years in the legislature? And everybody thought it was CPRA. I said, no. I said, CPRA is very, very important. It's a very close second. However, I have to believe a recurring funding source to restore the coast and build these projects is actually more important than the agency that's going to implement the projects. So my colleagues on the Natural Resources Committee presented me with a certified framed copy of Act 69 of the 2005 first extraordinary session, which is the constitutional amendment, which dedicated 100% of all offshore oil and gas revenues to coastal restoration, coastal protection, and infrastructure needs directly related to coastal wetland losses. That constitutional amendment was passed by 82% of the voters of the state of Louisiana, the highest of any of the 200 or so amendments presented in this state. And it passed in all 64, is there 64 parishes? 64 parishes. Every one of them passed it. And so I think that this, and as a result of us putting this constitutional lockbox around this funding, is when President George W. Bush gave his full support of Go Mesa, and a month later, Congress passed Go Mesa and it became the law of the land. And this is our main recurring funding source. So Glenn, we want to present to CPRA. I'm giving back the Founders Award so you can put it somewhere in Baton Rouge, and the Go Mesa legislation passed by the legislature, which was both CPRA and this was, I think, a unanimous vote of the legislature back then. So I want to thank y'all very much and
Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Dupree. Excited to hang this up at CPRA.
And let me just add that this constitutional amendment is 1.0. 2.0 passed the legislature this year. Representative Jill Ogeron passed another amendment amending this constitutional amendment, which will add renewable energy to the mix for Go Mesa. So that will be before the voters this November. And so please pass the word to get the vote out on that. It's very, very important as we move into renewable energy to keep this program going. So who's gonna? So now as to Morganza to the Gulf. Of course, that's our map. It's a 98-mile system that was authorized, went to Congress about 3 or 4 times. It last in 2014 from Gibson, Louisiana to Lockport. 70 of the 98 miles is in Terrebonne Parish, and the other 28 is in Lafourche Parish, expanding 2 parishes and 3 levee districts, all 3 of us at the table, besides Terrebonne Levee District, North Lafourche and South Lafourche, which they will be given part of this presentation. So some of our in-house mitigation projects, we always prefer what regulatory, what the Corps calls PRMs, permittee responsible mitigation. Why? Because we can build projects like this, wetland terracing or marsh creation on the flood side of our levees. It protects infrastructure and it fulfills the requirements necessary with mitigation. So all of this, what you've seen, was built with our own marsh buggy excavators and public employees and public equipment. This is some more. This is in Lafourche Parish on Reach K. more recently repairs going on after some damages from prior storms. This is what shows the most why Morganza the Gulf ought to be self-mitigating. The top picture and the bottom picture is 9 years apart. It was the same picture. Top picture was taken in 07 in the Pointe-aux-Chenes Wildlife Management Area. You can see the white PVC pipes, which marks pipelines. Well, the bottom picture, the only difference is that the Morganza alignment in that area was built, the environmental structures were operational, and no dredging, no sediment was put in here. This is only changing the salinity back to what it used to be historically, and you can see the effects here. Last night I was on HTV, and we actually compared Google Earth of the Pointe-aux-Chenes Wildlife Area from 2006 to 2023. You're going to see several hundred new acres of wetland vegetation has been created, same way this has, with just changing the salinity regime and on the inside of the levees. So our biggest project is the Houma Navigational Canal Lock Complex. That's always been a lock complex in every version of Morganza dating back to the 1990s, from the original recon report and the feasibility report. After the BP oil spill, CPRA came up with, at the urging of now Chairman Gordon Dove, who was the Natural Resource Chairman 12 years ago, that we fund the Houma Navigation Canal Lock Complex through Restore Act dollars. We have built phase 1, and this first picture represents what was done with phase 1 for $11.5 million. We created about 143 acres of beneficial use marsh creation with the dredging necessary in phase 1 and the operations area preload. So this was completed several months ago, and we've since then gone to bid on phase 2, which has now been awarded. So phase 2 has been awarded for $324 million. It's a 1,400-day contract, which will be complete in 2028. This is an artist's rendition of what the lock will look like. The barge floodgate right here is the existing HNC Bubba Dove floodgate that Terrebonne Levee District, with help from the state, built in 2013. So we're utilizing the same barge floodgate that was put in 11 years ago and adding the lock complex. If you add phase 1 and phase 2, and then phase 3 will be deferred for a few years, it will be the retrofitting of the barge floodgate and the adjacent flood walls to a plus 23.5, which will be about $85 to $90 million. So you have, this project is well over $400 million and underway. In 4 years from now, this will be the game changer for both environmental purposes and for navigation, seeking safe harbor for tropical events.
Since 1954, Terrebonne General has been a beacon of health and hope in our community. As we mark 7 decades of dedication to your well-being, Terrebonne General Health System remains committed to advancing healthcare, improving lives, and expanding our services to meet your evolving needs. In celebrating our past, we look forward to a future filled with promise and progress. Your health is our legacy. To discover more, visit tghealthsystem.com.
Flood control projects we've recently done. This is the Bayou Petit Caillou, or better known as a Cocodrie floodgate. We have a road on the side of it, road gate right here, floodgate about 140 feet wide. The total, now we recently learned some lessons from Ida. Hurricane Ida made landfall near Port Fourchon and straddled the parish line. The middle of the eye was about 2 or 3 miles east of Pointe-aux-Chenes on the parish line. We had 140 to 150 mile an hour north winds. We had what we learned, a new challenge was called the reverse head. At this floodgate for Ida, we had water on the inside stacked up from Lake Boudreaux at 10 feet above sea level, and on the flood side, which is the bottom of the picture, it was -4. So you had a 14-foot head difference, reverse head difference, against this flood control structure on the side where it wasn't meant to protect. We did not have a structural failure of this one. We did at the HNC Bubba Dove. There's 4 flow-through pipes on this barge, which I sincerely believe helped and why it did not fail. You didn't have a structural failure. So FEMA approved a hazardous mitigation project in order to address these reverse head conditions. You can see over here, we put in gates on the flood wall and on the road gate so that if we do have a reverse head in the future, water will get out. So the flood waters can't get back in, but if it gets higher on the inside and the out, it will escape. We also have another FEMA project for 2 more floodgates at Placid and Bush Canal, which is the next ones. So you have these, this is an artist rendition. You can see we'll be putting gates on the flood wall at Bush Canal. No, this is Placid, and then this is Bush Canal. Those 3 projects combined, the hydraulic model shows reduces the reverse head in half. You will have 5 feet instead of 10. That means you will not have offshore shrimp boats on top of our levee. You won't have tombs from cemeteries on our levees. So this 5 feet we can handle is a lot more manageable than 10 feet of reverse head situation. This slide was put in. We just finished the 10-year maintenance cycle for the Bayou Grand Caillou floodgate. Bids came in at $4 million. We had to do some creative engineering to bring the bids down closer to budget because Angela told us we didn't have the $4 million, but she can come up with a little over $2 million. So these barge floodgates have to be dry docked every 10 years and sandblasted and painted. So and some mechanical improvements done. We just got it back in service. This was built in 2013. So we just did the 10-year cycle, and about 2 weeks ago it was put back in service. Some of the levee improvements we've done, so the Lower Dularge area is not part of Arganza, but we have adopted it, and we are doing improvements in Lower Dularge on the 13-mile ring levee to keep that community dry and keep it in the system. One day, I hope that we will have a post-authorization alignment change of Arganza adopting Lower Dularge. So in the meantime, we are spending non-federal dollars and not getting credit for it on trying to bring these levees up to 12 feet right now on the east side and 9 feet on the west side of the lower part of this ridge. So we also have set a goal. Our first goal when I first got to the levee district was to try to build the 35 miles of Arganza between the 5 bayou communities of Terrebonne Parish, between Bayou Dularge and Pontchartrain. We met that goal in about 2018 and 19. Now we've done some other levees on the perimeter edge. We're going back to basics, and we're going on a second lift of the bottom of this system. So we have projects now to raise the lower part of Arganza to as much as 15 feet. Oh, excuse me. This one's also, I see a picture of Lower Dularge East, which we're raising to 12. The next project is actually Arganza to Gulf Reach E. You can see the water control structure. Arganza is the largest leaky levee or open levee system, I think, in the United States, where you can see one of the environmental structures here going through a parish road. So this levee was just recently raised from originally 12 feet. It settled to about 10 and a half. Now it's at 15 feet because Ida scared the hell out of us. Had Ida came 20 miles further to the west, we would have had serious problems in overtopping. This is just some more levees that we're raising to 15 feet along the southern part of the system under construction at this time. Reach H1 at 15 feet. H2, H3, FEMA paid to repair it. This was damaged from Ida. We brought it to 13 feet, and now we have a design going to 15 feet. This is one of our next priorities we pushing. Reach Lower, Reach High was just awarded at 14. The reason it's 14 and not 15, that's the widest we can go with the existing footprint and keep the factor of safety at 1.3 to 1. Reach J3 in Lower Ponasham was recently complete to 15 feet. And of course, this is near the parish line at the Ponasham floodgate. And this is Lafourche Parish, Reach K, which we're raising to 11 feet because that's the most we can go in the existing permanent footprint. And the middle section of Reach K, which is right here, the blue, all the 3 levy districts and the 2 parish governments have joined together to fund the rehabilitation of the middle section of K. So these 2 guys with me, their boards have agreed to each put up some dollars, and so has the 2 local parish governments. Our next priority after that is going to be the green area, or upper K, while we finish Reach L, which ties us into the South Lafourche levy district system. And what you see in here on the right side, this is a pipeline corridor. We have flexi floats there. We will be going to bid on the final section of Reach L, where we will be building a brace flood wall and a Wasky bridge crossing the pipelines, because we can't build any levees over the pipeline. So the levee will be finished to a +12 in about 2 months, and we will be going to bid during that time frame with the final section of it. This is some of it. So never 15 years ago I would have dreamed that we would have the federal government would be coming up with nearly $500 million of construction dollars. That has happened. All of these projects are either in design. The first federal project has been complete at the Humboldt Canal preload. All these other projects are in design, and they just this week opened bids on Reach A that came in at half the engineering estimate. $7 million and some change at the apparent low bid, as opposed to $14 million engineering estimate. Good job, Lacey. And all these others are in design. This is the final slide for me. This is a summary of everything we've done in the last 15 years or so. You can see total state and local investment is $1.2 billion. So you have the state has come up with about $300 million directly. The citizens of this area have funded about $300 million through sale taxes and bonding out that money and refinancing it, and any other rocks we could find money under. Then the $400 million lock. Then the parish government has done some improvements around this area, like improving the parish drainage levees. When Chairman Dove was the parish president, converting some of the 2 old floodgates to locks, building pump stations. So that whole effort on the parish side, a conservative effort figure would be $200 million. So that's $1.2 billion. And right now, to date, Congress has appropriated $468 million to the Corps of Engineers from Morganza to the Gulf. And the request and the capacity issued for the next fiscal year is $93 million. That's $1.76 billion. And so we now have 80 miles of levee, 14 navigable floodgates, 2 navigable non-federal lock complexes, big HNC lock complex under construction, and 11 environmental structures. We just end with this on the HNC lock. Normally, these large federal projects, the federal government builds it and the non-federal partners maintain and operate it. This lock is backwards. The non-federal partners, CPRA and Terrebonne Levee District, is building it, and then according to federal law in the 2014 Word Bill, the Corps will operate and maintain it. So this is a thing, I don't think this has ever happened before in this country, where the non-federal partners built a major component part for the federal partners to operate. So this is just as a reminder, Colonel, now start getting ready for the O&M in 2028 on our lock. And I think that's it.
Thank you, Reggie. Next, we have Dwayne Bourgeois with the North Lafourche Levee District. But before we get to that, before I forget, I want to make sure that I thank Inga Kitchen and Debbie Audigle for putting this on. Thank y'all very much. A round of applause. Ladies really work hard for the board, and they put everything together. And also, I'd like to mention the CPRA people in attendance: Daniel Deere, Greg Grandy, James McGinnis. Thank you for coming, James. And our legal, Chris Barnes and Jules Abair from Terrebonne Parish. And Chris Barnes, thank y'all for being here. With that, Dwayne, please proceed.
All right. Thank you, Artie. I'm Dwayne Bourgeois, Executive Director for the North Fuchs Levee District. And I just have a handful of slides just to follow up on some of the stuff that Reggie was talking about. As he mentioned, Morganza to the Gulf does come into the North Fuchs Levee District, basically from La Rose, crossing from the South Fuchs system with a future closure in the GIWW, we call the East Closure, and it moves up to, well, that's the debate. We're trying to get it as close to the Upper Barataria system as we can, and we're working towards that. The Corps is working with us on that as well. And so we're trying to tie those two big federal levee systems together. We've been working our reaches on this side, start from the GIWW as reach 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we're in various stages of design and trying to work through some very, very complicated oil and gas fields that are in that area. And it seems to be the pipeline capital of the world, and so we're just trying to find our way through that with minimal impacts to those type of things and minimal impacts to wetland impacts of that nature. So we do have some work that we've done initially on it. This is Reach 2, some work that we did with some funding we had through from ourselves and through CPRA. And we're working on other reaches, currently trying to get to bid on Reach 3, and then I think we have Reach 1 under design as well. Right now the Corps has Reach 1 under design, so we're working on that. But as Reggie mentioned, you know, Ida put us through a lot of a test showing what happens when all of that water in the back basin gets moved around. As he said, they had a 140-mile-an-hour north wind. That's one serious kootenai. If anybody's local, they know what a kootenai is. Except it wasn't cold. It was a hot 140-mile-an-hour wind. But the more we do those things, the more this system comes online. And you see, like he showed those slides in Pointe-aux-Chenes and the aerials of Pointe-aux-Chenes Wildlife Management Area, where you now have grass where there once was water. That means there's less water in that back basin to slosh around. So all of this is self-improving. But in the meantime, we've had several other projects that we have to contend with. And so I just wanted to go real quickly through a couple of slides of some projects that we're working on. It's not on the Morganza alignment, but it's stuff that need to be done while we're waiting for the Morganza to knock the storm surge down, which is measured in feet, versus rain, which is measured in inches. So this is still pretty important stuff because we get to have that. This is reach D2 and D3, excuse me, on the west side of Bayou Lafourche below Lockport. And this is Reach B, another one of those reaches in that section. This work we've done, again, this is working with funding from our local constituents who've taxed themselves for flood protection, as well as additional funding we've received through CPRA. And also Raceland Prairie area. This is one of the areas that these levees are holding back water 24/7. And so very important levee systems for us. Tough to work after the fact, where you're working through where people have already developed, and so you're sort of threading the needle to try to provide flood protection without encroaching on additional property, and so that becomes a bit of a challenge. And this is also a project that I wanted to talk about. Most of the funding came from Go Mesa. This is why everything we're doing to improve our Go Mesa is very important from a flood protection point of view. It's one of the few recurring sources that is eligible, or where levee district work is eligible for receiving the funding. So this is the Thibodeau Lockport Bayou Blue project area, Hollywood Canal. It's a combination of a pump station and a bunch of gates that basically allows us to deploy the gates in the event that we have a storm coming, and then start to pump and use a big natural basin together. We've got a lot more projects, but I didn't want to take too much time on that. So that's the end of my presentation, and I think we have to load another presentation for Nick in the court, right?
Nick, the next presentation will be Nick Mathern with the South Lafourche Levee District. Mr. Mathern.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nick Mathern, Executive Director of the South Louisiana Levee District. We're gonna PDF this presentation. I'm having some difficulties with PowerPoint, so we'll miss a video I had for you guys at the end, but I'll talk you through some of the challenges we're facing. So, as was mentioned, part of our levee system is incorporated along a portion of the Morganza to the Gulf alignment. And so we've been doing some preparatory work to advance the improvements of those portions of the alignment. And so a little look at what we're facing in the northern part of South Lafourche. Here's a shot from just after Hurricane Ida in 2021. You're looking at section F of our levee system, which is partially made of earthen levee, and then connects into a flood wall that was partially built by the Corps of Engineers, improved at one point by the South Louisiana Levee District. But the flood wall in this area is to an elevation of +11. The earthen levee here is to a +13. Ultimately, we're authorized as part of Morganza to the Gulf in this area to a +16. So we still have some work to do in the future, but for now, we're very proud of the advancements that we've made. Obviously, you can see here the extreme flooding and mud that was washed in from Hurricane Ida on the outside. And although there's plenty of blue roofs on the inside, no flood waters actually got into homes or businesses, which we're very proud of. Another portion on the opposite side of Bayou Lafourche that's part of the Morganza to the Gulf alignment is section C North that follows along the Intracoastal Canal and then moves southward, ultimately tying into Reach L of Morganza to the Gulf that Reggie just showed a few minutes ago. We've been working with all South Louisiana Levee District funding to improve this section levee to a +13. We're about complete with that work. In the next month or so, we'll be wrapping that up. And as we complete this, our employees go back and seed the levees that have been improved to facilitate grass growth there. So this levee section is very impressive. Just south of where we tie into Morganza to the Gulf, section C South, we've been working with FEMA to repair some damages from Hurricane Ida. So we're adding 2 feet of material on the flood side toe of our levee system, where we had debris wash up after Hurricane Ida. When we removed that debris, a lot of that debris removal operation caused some damage to the flood side toe. And so FEMA is reimbursing us to add 2 feet of material back to the flood side here. Another section back along section F of the levee system, you can see that flood wall I just mentioned along the Intracoastal here on the left side of the picture. We've utilized $1 million of Go Mesa funding along with $1.1 million of our own funding to install a vessel impact barrier to protect that investment of the flood wall along the GIWW. We're wrapping up that project right now, should be complete and have the contractor totally off-site within the next few weeks. And this was a series of pile clusters to protect that flood wall from impact of vessels, not only from a storm, but just daily traffic that's along the GIWW every day. Further south, where we've had some overtopping, that's not part of Morganza, that just wanted to update the board on how we're utilizing state funding. We've been utilizing $500,000 of Go Mesa funding to improve and lift this road that's crosses section D north of our levee. This is on the Loop facility, Louisiana Offshore Oil Port. And so the levee on either side of here is up to a +16. We're using some Go Mesa funding as well as our own funding to lift this road to a +18 to anticipate future lifts that we'll be seeing in the coming years in this area. We did have a little bit of overtopping here from Hurricane Ida, so now we've typically put HESCO baskets across this road, so this is a more permanent and more reliable solution for the future. A little bit further north, another area where we had some overtopping from Hurricane Ida, we're utilizing $2.3 million of Go Mesa funding. Oh, that was another video that was going to be shown here. Plus another $1.5 million of surplus funding and $500,000 of our own dollars to stockpile material from these nearby borrow pits along section E north of our levee system. So we're ultimately going to be raising this section to a +16, where it was overtopped at a +14 for Hurricane Ida. Then further back north, this is just south of where Dwayne pointed out that our system is going to connect to the North Lafourche Levee District across the GIWW with the GIWW East floodgate that's currently in the design process right now. And that's going to cut off the intracoastal in times of storms from flooding our area through that inlet. So this is just south of where that connection is going to tie into our system from North Lafourche Levee District. My predecessor was notorious for saying that dirt is better than air. I think everybody in this room has heard that several times, and I think we've proved that in Hurricane Ida, regardless of what the Corps thinks. Sorry, Colonel and Lacey, but this is an example here of this project where we've proven that what we've done in South Lafourche has worked, and now we're really no longer in what I've kind of called firehouse mode, where we've been frantically getting more and more elevation. We've got a very comfortable amount of elevation now, and so we have the luxury of now going back and stabilizing a lot of that work that we've done over the years. And so this is a great example, utilizing $1.7 million of GOMESA funding, $100,000 of surplus, and $2 million of local funding to raise this stability berm on the protected side that at most points was to a -5 feet below sea level for our stability berm. We're bringing it up to sea level. So while that in itself doesn't maybe sound so impressive, when you compare it to where we were at a -5, when you go out and look at this project, it's very impressive and makes me very confident for the future and how well we'll be able to perform. On the southern end, where we had some more overtopping, again, we got 16 foot of storm surge on the southern part of our system from Hurricane Ida, and our levees were at 16. Some places fortunate enough to have 18 feet, but mostly we were at our limit for Hurricane Ida, and in a couple places with the wave run up, we were overtopped. So here we're utilizing for Section A East on the eastern side of our system, $3.4 million of GOMESA funding, another $3.6 million of surplus. Well, we'll be raising this section of levee another 1.5 feet. We'll be going to 19.5 feet on the eastern side. And the same thing for A West. We'll be using about $4.5 million of GOMESA funding that was approved in this year's annual plan to lift that section of levee in the southernmost portion to 19.5 feet. And the last most critical part that I want to talk about is, again, along the Morganza to the Gulf alignment, we currently have a floodgate to a +13 in La Rose, the Ted Gisclair floodgate. Now, we've had some success in the past with our Ted Gisclair lock, our Lee Ontario lock in Golden Meadow, where we had an original floodgate that was built in the 80s, and we came and added a second floodgate on the back end to create a lock complex. And that has allowed us to let commerce continue southward to Port Fourchon, that handles 1/5 of the nation's oil and gas, almost 100% of Gulf of Mexico activity. And so in the northern end, we're looking to repeat that success by adding a second floodgate on the inside of our system in La Rose to be able to allow us to lock vessels in and out. A prime example was just this past weekend, which was a video that was very telling. I was hoping to be able to show. We just with a 5-inch rainfall on Thursday, a little bit more rain on Friday, a tropical storm that hit southern Mexico over the weekend, we had about a 2-foot differential between the water in Bayou Lafourche inside of our system and the GIWW just to the north of us. So where we normally, when we have to close our floodgate in La Rose, normally we can open 6 times a day, every 3 to 5 hours. We were only able to open once every 24 hours. And when we did, the number of vessels we had forced us to have it open for about a half an hour. So for a half an hour, this is from Friday morning, we had 5 vessels going out, 4 vessels coming in. And along with that, we had 2 feet of water coming in to our system for about a half an hour each morning throughout the weekend, to where we do have a siphon system that helps us to prevent flooding in Golden Meadow. Because if the water level in Bayou Lafourche goes above about 0.4 feet, we start seeing water on the road in Golden Meadow. Yesterday afternoon, I was just trying to help a family figure out how to stop their property from flooding, where historically they've drained to the bayou. Now that culvert that runs under Highway 1 is allowing the bayou to drain into their yard. And so they're having the opposite effect of what they were originally intending. So because of the water that was coming in La Rose throughout the weekend, we had to have some of our operators manning the pump stations from 6 in the morning to 9 p.m. just to handle the water that was let in for 30 minutes in La Rose to make sure that we don't flood the town of Golden Meadow. So that just shows how critical this project is. The current cost estimate is about $36.5 million. We've got $5 million of our own funding dedicated to this project. CPRA in the past has dedicated $5 million. We're working with the Lafourche Parish government, who's seeking a hazard mitigation grant program funding through FEMA for another $15 million, which leaves us about $11 to $12 million short. Now, I know Chairman Dove attempted to get that money for us this year. Ultimately, I think a lot of us had some frustrations with capital outlay this year and surplus dollars, and so we weren't successful this year. But we're going to continue to fight and make sure that this gets done as quickly as possible, because preventing our people from flooding is also preventing commerce from flowing to Port Fourchon. And I think that affects all of us in the future. So again, this is part of Morganza. We're happy to be a cooperating partner, and this is a critical piece of infrastructure that we're pushing to get done as quickly as possible. So thank you, Mr. Chairman and board, for your attention. And I think next we'll have the Corps of Engineers give an update on their progress.
Well, we have one right before that. We have the federal update for Mr. Neil McMillan with DENR. And while he's doing that, I'd also like to thank Marina Clay, Ryan Shaw, Mimi Giafalo, and Adam Copus for putting this on. They've done a great job. Thank you all very much with CPRA. I just want to make sure I cover everyone there, that's all. And with that, Neil McMillan.
Mr. Chairman, one more point. Reggie and I were talking, go figure.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. It is the Corps of Engineers. I'm sorry.
Right.
I misread. Sorry about that.
So
the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and sorry. Hey, Neil, you got to take a seat behind the Corps, okay?
Right. So, Mr. Chairman, one more point, if we could. Reggie and I were just talking about, credit where credit is due. And just speaking on behalf of the three of us, the credit is due to the people of Lafourche and Terrebonne Parish. You saw a lot of matching dollars in local matching dollars in every one of these presentations and all of these projects. And the credit for that goes to the people of Lafourche and Terrebonne Parish, who have pretty much exclusively have voted to tax themselves for flood protection. And I just wanted to add that on behalf of the three of us, and then we'll let this.
Without a doubt, the people of Terrebonne stepped up with 3/4 cent sales tax. I believe South Lafourche is a 1 cent sales tax, and North Lafourche, along with millages. So with that, we have the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Lieutenant Colonel Weander. Did I get that right?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, that was perfect. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the board, thank you for this opportunity to speak to you today. Colonel Jones sends his regrets. He's currently training a half a dozen Weeblos at Boy Scout camp, but I assure you, a high-quality airborne ranger like himself will have those children whipped into shape in no time and ready to go home. With that, I'd like to give you a brief update on Morganza to Golf. As Rich discussed, nearly $500 million worth of federal investment into the region, so very massive investment. With that, Mark Wingate told me, and if I only learned one thing from him, I'd be a fool. But the thought that comes to mind today is money at rest is money at risk. So of that $469 million, we have 14 separate structures currently being designed. 6 of those are funded for construction, so looking to deliver a massive program on behalf of the local area. Great news, Reach A, we have reviewed the bids. We're looking to make an award by the end of next month, so very excited for that and getting that underway to support the local area. With that, we're also currently designing Reach F and look to have that design completed no later than fiscal year 25. So much more risk reduction for the local area. I'm excited to deliver that program. With that, Colonel Jones was very upset. He would not be here for this. Reggie, I know he's going to link up with you next week. But, just talking with the team at the district, talking on the car ride up here and then listening to the accolades this morning, I think a few things come to mind. I think the one that came to mind for me this week as I prepared for this was the idea of selfless service. I've often heard it said the measure of a man is often proportional to the selfless service they render to others. And as I look back at the last 43 years that Reggie's dedicated to his community, to his state, to his region, and the benefits the nation has derived, I just want to say thank you on behalf of Colonel Jones. I know he's very excited to link up with you on Monday, so thank you, sir. With that, I will pause for any questions.
Structural heart disease refers to a defect in the heart's valves, walls, or chambers that keeps the heart from pumping blood properly. Valve or structural heart problems may be present at birth or develop over time. Your risk increases if you have high blood pressure, plaque buildup, history of heart attack, take certain medications, or have certain heart infections. The Structural Heart Program at CIS and Terrebonne General provides innovative solutions and devices with the latest technology to bring the best possible outcomes for patients. Learn more at cardio.com.
Board, any questions? Wait, yes, sir.
Thank you for being here, Colonel. Just one thing I want to ask is regarding funding. So right now, I think the interim allocations for FY25 for congressional appropriations is around $59 billion for energy and water, of which this year the Corps' request was about $7 billion, so that's about 12%. So when you have a situation where your requests are going up, appropriations are going up through congressionally directed spending, how are y'all balancing the needs of Congress versus the needs of the Corps in that budget process to provide a better return on investment, specifically as it relates to the projects that you all identified that OMB essentially approves versus what Congress is going to come forward and request?
So no, that's a very good question. I'll stay in my lane and answer on behalf of the district. I won't speak for the chief engineer. Because we express capability every year based on what we have ready, what we know we can accomplish in the next fiscal year. Here's the capability that we bring to the federal government that we think we can deliver. And we make that recommendation to Congress based on our best technical advice. Here's what we believe the best use of that funding would be. Decision makers make a decision. We will, of course, salute the flag and execute. If that answers your questions.
Yeah, definitely. And I just wanted to ask that because I think your comment was on point with money at rest is money at risk. The Corps invests a lot of dollars in studying these projects, but as they get through the study phase, the next portion is construction funding. And so, as you're more constrained from OMB or from congressional appropriations, just highly encourage you all to consider that you already have investment in a lot of these projects. And so construction is desperately needed in a lot of things that we have going on down here.
Mr. Alford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to Lacey, thank you guys, thank the Corps, thank the Colonel for moving so fast. I know you guys really worked hard for Reach A. We're excited that y'all are fixing to break ground, and it's going to be a great thing, and hopefully it'll get the ball rolling for the other parts down the road, right? So we're excited. Thank you for your hard work, and the Colonel, thank you as well. Thank you, Colonel.
And on behalf of the CPRA and of course myself as from Terrebonne Parish, I want to thank the Corps. We finally getting federal monies in. We're approaching $500 million, and for a long time we've been waiting for the cavalry to come in, and so it's definitely coming. Meanwhile, a levee system was built with protection, 14 floodgates. The levee system 15 feet to 12 feet throughout Terrebonne Parish and parts of Lafourche, all as Reggie and Dwayne was showing, all the way back up with heading towards La Rose, all the way back to Gibson. And it's a detriment of everyone here, the engineers, the people, and of course the Corps. The Corps has been working with us on the permitting. They're really putting out permits quick, and we approached them about trying to speed up and work Grand out, trying to do segmented breakwater rocks, because after Ida, they really took a hard beating, and they're working with us. And I thank Lieutenant Colonel and Colonel Jones and Ms. Shaw. We thank y'all because you're really working well with the CPRA, and we look forward to the future working with y'all, with the Corps of Engineers and the federal government. Thank y'all very much for what y'all do.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, seeing the federal update with Neil McMillan, DENR.
Thank you, Chairman and Board. Got a lot to discuss on the funding side, on the authorization side, on our advocacy and hearings. So we'll jump right in so we can get to lunch. We'll start first with the Corps 2024 work plan. So what the work plan is when Congress passes their annual appropriations, there's unspecified dollars, and the Corps takes 60 days, works with OMB, and chooses kind of the best value of the remaining projects that aren't specified. And Louisiana did quite well, especially, I guess this is the New Orleans district funding. They got 123 million additional dollars. And for the coastal program, there's kind of two I want to highlight. One is West Bank and vicinity. They got 2.2 million to start the PED, or the pre-construction engineering design, for levee lifts on their system, which is great to see go forward. And then Southwest Coastal, this was really interesting to see, got 20 million to build 2 miles of shoreline protection. Back when we started asking for funding for FY24, the Corps said they had no capability for this project, and then they came through, put two miles on it. So that was really exciting. We'd had a tour of Southwest like literally a month before saying we needed to do this, and it came through. So next slide. We got 3 big charts, so thanks for bearing with me. This is what we're pursuing funding for FY25. And there's some big numbers here, and I just want to thank the Corps New Orleans District for putting forth more capability. And so in this earmark or direct funding process, Congress really relies on the Corps to tell them what they can do in 1 year, because Congress doesn't want to stockpile money for one project when they could be spreading it out across the country. And so we've had to work with the Corps to say, what can you do so that our requests are aligned with theirs, and we can go to the finish line. And so we have some major numbers. I'm sure everyone's looking at the top one with Morganza at 93 million. That's just a tremendous amount. I think that's the largest. If we got that, that'd be the largest kind of, I guess, civil works earmark that's not related to like a lock and dam navigation thing since earmarks came back. So that's a real big ask. And fortunately, we have 4 members of Congress supporting it. Then we have this Senator Kennedy. As you'll see, his name is kind of all over this community project funding. And until last year, when he did about 1 for this, he had said that earmarks were not the proper way to appropriate. But now he's kind of changed his strategy based on how Congress is adapting, and Coastal Louisiana is going to benefit tremendously since he's the ranking member of the right committee. So it's great to see him put forth funding for dewatering on the West Banks, on some gates, for 2 more miles on Southwest Coastal. That's fantastic. We're glad to see Upper Barataria Basin get a large number. I think there's been some kind of downscaling of it, but glad to get that started on design and some access roads. Coastal program is really excited about Mr. Go ecosystem restoration. This is something that we got Congress to make doubly clear that it's 100% federal responsibility. They did $5 million in capability for doing the PED on some shoreline protection projects, 2 in St. Bernard Parish, 2 in Orleans Parish. We're going to really rely on the Corps to lean forward on that because it's their responsibility. And so we're glad to see that start up. The next one is a pretty exciting project that CPRA came up with called the Southwest Louisiana Living Shoreline Habitat Restoration and Public Access Initiative. This is in a separate funding account through NOAA. And we got some news today that it's in the official House bill. They cut it in half, but at least it's in there. And this is great to see us kind of branch out into some new funding pots. This would construct, up to a mile in shoreline protection for oysters in near one of the refuges in Southwest. It would start a oyster shell recycling program, improve some kayak launches for the Greenbelt Initiative in Lake Charles, and plant some trees on a Chenier Ridge. I guess with half the funding, we'll have to see what we can do, but really excited. Thankful for Congressman Higgins for putting that forward. Senator Cassidy is proposing to put more funding to maximize the Corps' ability to work on the Lower Miss study. And then the next one I'm really excited about is 3 of the members put forth funding for St. Tammany Parish, which isn't even authorized yet. But if Word 24 authorizes this and this funding passes, they'll be able to start right away instead of waiting a couple years by their budget processes, which is so frustrating to have a authorized project just in limbo. South Central Coastal's getting some funding, their first funding after authorization. If this works, that's great. Something we talked about at the last board meeting was the need for Venetian Isles to have some dredging so that the community can kind of navigate. CPRA put forward a proposal to take some of that dredge material as borrowed material to replenish Bayou Sauvage National Wildlife Refuge. Cassidy's got that started. That's in the interior appropriations. So another example of us kind of go into a different funding pot. So glad to see that. And then Senator Kennedy put in some funding for some studies. So this is the early start of the FY 25 process, but this is money on top of the president's budget. Obviously, it's very competitive, but we'll see how much can make to the finish line. So about the shores recap, Glenn covered a lot of this. I wanted to mention that we are strengthening our partners with Texas and Mississippi and some DC-based groups to help leverage us. And for those who missed out, you can meet a celebrity. Team Gold met Billie Jean King, who's a congressional gold medalist herself. And you just never know what will happen. I heard Usher was on the Hill last week. So, guys, you want to save the coast and meet some celebrities, that's what you need to do. We had a big focus on the Gomesa states. That's something Mr. Lane has repeatedly advised me to say, hey, let's lock in these states so we can go further afield. So we had our biggest push ever with Texas. We covered over half their delegation. And the feedback we had from Texas just seemed consistently stronger than in the past. So it was great that we had some fresh numbers from LSU's Center for Energy Studies on what just the cap removal would be. And heard a lot of testimony about that being really compelling. Because as you'll see from here, Texas will get at least 1.2 billion, Mississippi 650, Alabama 625, and Louisiana nearly 2 billion just from the cap. With some assumptions that could be conservative. So, we continue to try to get those other states on board and as enthusiastic as we are. And then I'm really proud of the Shores Coalition. We've gotten a lot better at communicating outside oil and gas states, and I think the Eastern Seaboard effort was really effective talking to the wind states. We use this chart, as you see in the purple, that shows the revenue produced by wind and the revenue shared with wind, which is 0, and that consistently resonates, trying to get them to act. And we also heard that they're getting nervous that if we don't pass this legislation soon, Congress will leave that money on the table for good, and they'll miss that opportunity, which may very well happen. And then we also, since we had such wide attendance, we're able to cover some West Coast states and some interior states that probably are not our the most direct link, but important in the energy space. And the reports I heard back was that we did a really good job of kind of dealing with kind of the anti-oil and gas perspective on the West Coast, where wind's not as near, but really showing that how the results of these is community resilience and good coastal funding. And so a lot of positive outcome for folks that may reflexively not like just the setup that we have. And then we also were able to connect with interior states on removing like administrative fees to revenue sharing that would cost places like New Mexico, 50 to 70 million a year. As you'll see at the bottom, this is Rep. Melanie Stansbury of New Mexico that our group was able to meet with. She and her staff were excited about this. And I mean, the more non-coastal states we can bring into this mission, I mean, that shows that this is a nationwide importance. So I was really pleased with that, as well as meeting with committees of jurisdiction that are led by members from Minnesota and Arkansas, being able to explain why coastal matters to them. So I think we really hit kind of different audiences really well and kind of proud of how our messaging's advanced. Shifting to WRDA and the core authorization, this is something that's being in play right now. The House is marking up their version today through the committee. And so this is a complicated chart, but this is kind of what CPRA has been advocating for, kind of where it is in play. One thing that's really exciting in the House is there's a provision that was led by Congressman Graves, but supported by many others, including Higgins and Carter. And this is to clarify that our payment on the HISDRS payback satisfied the request. And that's something we discussed last year of the Corps interpreting something differently and causing us to have a big scramble. We're trying to clean that up so we eliminate any uncertainty and can remove that kind of specter of the return of the interest from us. So hopefully the Senate can accede to that. We've got St. Tammany flood risk management proposed for authorization. That's $5.9 billion. Just that project alone is bigger than any of the other projects across the country combined for authorization. So we're glad to see, I guess, us taking over half of what Congress is willing to do. We're able to propose getting the Lake Pontchartrain barriers study re-brought into the Corps' world and studying that. And then, let's see, going through this, you'll just see some other just good policies that are kind of how they go back and forth. And a lot of them, the remaining ones are in one side or the other, so we'll be, telling one side, hey, your bill's great, but the other side's better on this, and vice versa. So glad to have these in play. On the Western Caucasus visit, Director Leday did a good job explaining it, but I just want to emphasize kind of a couple different themes. One is that Louisiana's coastal energy sector is such an ambassador to the coastal program. That's why these folks came in here, is because of the energy impacts of like the Venture Global LNG and the refining. And then we're able to show that that national asset that you find so interesting can't thrive without coastal communities, coastal ecosystems. And so it's there's been a lot of talk about connecting the two, and that was really effective here. And just want to thank a lot of folks for helping on this Sunday morning, very hot, very big tour. Davis Pond, Simone Malaz and Alicia Renfro with the airboats. Samantha over here and President Jewel kind of helping us host and find a local chef to, feed them, memorable Louisiana food. And Danielle with CPRA, who sweated it out on Davis Pond structure for 4 hours to give them a briefing on why it's so important. And then tomorrow, if y'all are, wanting to tune in, tomorrow at 1 o'clock Central, Director Leday is going to speak to the House Oversight Committee on the President's Executive Order 1463, which requires the signing of a project labor agreement before starting a construction project worth $35 million or more. And so for us as a non-federal sponsor I think we tabulated up to $39 billion in core work if these agreements with labor unions that, are don't have a huge presence in Louisiana, only 3% of our construction workforce is unionized. If we have to come up with these agreements and cost goes up 12 to 20%, which is what there's some studies that say would do, well, we're beholden to the cost sharing requirements. So we're kind of unique as a non-federal sponsor, is that if the Fed's cost goes up, it's not spread around the country. It goes directly back to us, and we have to pony up another large percentage. And, that can end up being in the hundreds of millions per project. So this is really an emerging issue, and CPRA is kind of seen as like the perfect ambassador for why this is a challenge, which is an exciting opportunity, but also kind of scary. It shows kind of how, at risk we are for stuff like this. And we've talked about cost increases for years. This could be another source of it. Hopefully, we can work it out. And we also want to thank Congressman Higgins, who really spearheaded this effort with his bill, brought us into the loop, and is helping us advocate for a better solution. So that's tomorrow at 1. And we'll hopefully be able to share the testimony. And, I hope there's nothing that can prevent us from doing big things well. And so we'll see, based off this hearing, how it goes. And with that, Chairman Dove, I conclude my presentation.
Thank you very much. Any questions, amendments? Dwayne Bourgeois.
Thanks, Neil. One thing I wanted to point out with regards to the Shores Fly-In in Go Mesa was Neil and his group did an incredible task, and they're owed a lot of appreciation for what it takes to corral 83 people into 105 offices in a single day. That, guys, all of y'all, I don't want to name names because I don't know exactly who all worked in it, but I know Neil was part of it, and I thank you for that. It was very, very challenging task, I'm sure, and it was pretty dynamic as well. I led one of the teams, Go Team Lime, and we were in some of those, one of them was Northwest Colorado ski country. So they're obviously, go coastal stuff, right? But we've got some momentum on this. We've got some changes, and we see some different things. So thanks so much to Neil and everybody who helped make that trip possible, because it was a monumental coordination effort. The second thing, WRDA today, very, very important. Mitch and I were called out several times that's why I'm running in and out for the markup today. And just pointing out that Garrett Graves' office is, all of our congressional delegation is working on this, but Garrett's kind of leading the team with his through the movement in the committees that he's on, and so that's something very important. And I think we've got some good things in it. Not quite everything we wanted, but it's good. So I appreciate you guys tracking that. And the final comment I'll make is, Glenn, what you're going to talk about tomorrow is crazy important for us. I mean, we can't afford to have this labor agreement on us for everything we're doing from Arkansas. So I appreciate you going at Congressman Higgins' request and testifying on that. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, and I'd like to reiterate how important it is. Go Mesa is the Gulf of Mexico revenue sharing that 4 states get, and we're at a cap. If we can lift that cap, it's hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to the 4 states, with Louisiana being the number 1. And on another note, Louisiana, on this executive order that was signed by Biden, what it is Louisiana's a right-to-work state, and they're trying to push the unions down here on the core jobs. And $35 million for a core job is not a very big job. So that entails you'd have to do a PLA, which is a labor agreement on a project labor agreement with a union shop. So the price of POCO goes up drastically, and the state of Louisiana has 35% match. Like a good example is West Shore. And, it could cost us hundreds of millions of dollars in extra monies because we're having to work a union. And, as you know, with a union, the big problem is a weld-to-weld, a fit-to-fits, a tack-a-tacks, and so on and so on. So you may need 4 guys to what 1 guy does under Louisiana labor. And so it just, the price of everything really goes up. It is an executive order. It can be canceled as quick as it is. And the strange thing about it was put in 2022, but not enforced till an election year. So read the writing on the wall. It was just enforced here not too long ago. And the Corps has no alternative but to abide by the Commander-in-Chief, who is President Biden. So Glenn and Neil's going up on a very important subcommittee hearing on this issue, because this would cost the state of Louisiana and the taxpayers a lot of money. So this is something we're taking seriously. In fact, they're leaving from here, going to catch a plane to Washington. So if y'all could tune in, please do. It's very important that they don't force union workers in on our coastal jobs. So with that, I think we have one speaker card. Wait, I'm sorry. Any other members?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, yes.
Thank you. I don't know if this falls under Mr. McMillan's update or public comment, but I'm going to take my stab at it. Lieutenant Colonel hit the nail on the head on money at rest, and so and thanks to Congressman Higgins' efforts in Southwest Coastal, at some point, when appropriate, or whether it's Mr. McMillan or Mr. Leday or whoever, could look into the money that I saw in your presentation related to some shoreline stabilization in Southwest. Perhaps getting an update on where that is, because it seems like, at least what I've been told, is that money might be at rest, and God forbid it find another home. So when appropriate, whether that's now or later, if I could get an update on that. And just a quick comment from my standpoint, it would seem that in this instance, it's really an extension of existing projects. So the notion of spending a lot of time on engineering and design seems a little bit foolhardy. So if we could find out where that money is, get it in the queue, get it built, because I know there were an instance with this high water event that everybody experienced some negative consequences of. A couple of CPRA marsh creation projects were impacted in the interim. So God forbid we have money at rest that could be implemented in that regard. And it sounds like, Mr. Leday, you might have an answer. I have one more after this, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Corbill. On that update, just kind of a broad update is, Southwest Coastal really is unique, sort of like St. Tammany. It has two components, the non-structural and then the ecosystem restoration. Of course, we provided the update. The non-structurals moving forward, the bids have been awarded, and they're initiating that. On the ecosystem, they got those new start, the $20 million you see in Neil's packet from FY24. That money has, now just kind of gotten to the core. We met with the folks in Southwest Louisiana about a month ago. So we're going to ping the Corps after this meeting and try to find out what the timeline and the schedule to get to you so we can implement that project. But we understand how critical and urgent it is, and we'll work with the Corps and then get back to you next month.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Leday. I guess over in South Central and Southwest, we think rest is about a day and a half. So that's, okay. I don't mean to belabor the point, but yeah, I really appreciate it. And I know all of my colleagues over in that part of the world would. Second, I know the Lieutenant Colonel had to step away. So I'll seize this opportunity to ask him to do a couple of things, but maybe it falls in Mr. McMillan or Mr. Leday's standpoint. But, looking over here in Southeast, over in Southwest, at some point at one of these meetings, perhaps maybe Mr. McMillan or the Colonel or Lieutenant Colonel could give us an update on the Mermentau Basin as the Corps defines it. Where are the weak points and some of the critical infrastructure as it relates to the Mermentau Basin? And one key component of that would be the Calcasieu Lock. So this comment is really related to just a request for a potential agenda item on that, and then I would assume at some point we'll be getting regular updates on South Central that you mentioned in your presentation, Mr. McMillan. The comment I would make to that, and you kind of hit on it here, but if there's instances, we occasionally, a lot of us board members interact with our federal delegation. So if there's some opportunity where we can seize encounters where we're together with them, to kind of poke at them on some things that are important to us, feel free to share that with us to the best of your ability, so that we can kind of poke at them from a new angle, and maybe get them inspired to have all of our federal delegation behind some of those lists in your spreadsheet. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And members, commission members, any other questions? With that, we have one speaker called Alex Ostheimer. Mr. Alex, would you like to go to the mic over to my left? Wait. And we allow 3 minutes, Mr. Alex, Mr. Ostheimer.
Thank you. I wanted to thank everybody. You do a great job, and it's good that we have such dedicated people, particularly the man handling the meeting. But I assume that all of this is being done so that we can stay here.
Definitely.
That's what it's all about. Not to get a roosting area for the pelicans, not to have an island that was named after your great-grandpa or something or other washed away. So the good people of Louisiana with the delicious food and awesome environment can stay living here. Now, there's another group that wants to talk about the water rising and the land sinking and all of that. And we have local groups that are trying to get companies to come build here. That's a 40-year depreciation schedule. Now, we need, and I'm not telling you what to do, but we need to be able to tell somebody who wants to build here, who we want to build here, to how our children and grandchildren to work. We need to say, the experts say with the projects that are in progress and planned by all of y'all, and we got tons of them, and you're doing a wonderful job, that you can stay here 143 years. And you see, that's total devoid from this. None of you brought up, this is going to mean we can stay here longer. Now, I remember Gordy, when Ida was coming, said you don't have to evacuate at 12 feet. And then for a couple of hours, they said it's going to be 15. He said, and almost had to change his mind. And then it went back down. But that matters. And if the reason for the billions of dollars that we're spending is not people, I don't think you'd have much support to do it. I know we got a lot of wacko environmentalists in this country, but I still don't think you would get the support to do it. And everybody knows that I'm involved in one of the alignments for the Morganza to the Gulf, and not too happy with it, and won't be. But one of these environmentalist groups that I'm aware of, I read their comments, and their comments was, don't put the levee on our property. If you're part of Terrebonne, a realistic location of that levee is dependent on that. We cannot let ourselves reach the point where we have to leave and turn it over to a bunch of environmentalists to supervise it until it's gone completely. And I'm not saying we're not doing gracious. The levee we got is good, but we need to close the gap and blah, 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 blah. But the point is, all I'm asking you to do is maybe get something into your meeting somewhere where there's a report that says, with the current plans and all, we should be able to inhabit this parish, including the bayous that are currently enclosed with the Morganza to the Gulf system, for another 143 years or something like that. And we have our own example. We neglected to apply flood protection to that industrial area on the east side of town until Jemico moved up the bayou, everybody else moved up the bayou. Now it's straight where they don't flood, and you got shipyards coming back and stuff coming back. So we have an example of what we have to do. And I think we're doing it. Anyway, I'm not fussing, I'm just asking you to try to make sure everybody in Washington, because the problem's not in here, the problem's in Washington. They almost had that Morganza connection where you could see it from the back of the existing levee. And then they decided to change the route. All I'm asking you to do is make sure that Washington understands we're not a bunch of wacko environmentalists. We want to stay here. And people is what's important. And thank you very much, and I'll shut up now. My wife always says I talk too long.
Thank you, Mr. Alstorm, thanks for working with the levee board. Thank you very much, and with that, we have a motion to adjourn. Mr. Bourgeois, we have a unanimous second. Unanimous. This meeting is adjourned, and thank everyone for coming, and very informative meeting, and thank y'all. We'll see y'all in 30 days.
There you have it. Comprehensive look at what's taking place as of now. Things are fluid. It changes, and I'm sure the governor, Jeff Landry, and the chairman, Gordy Dove, and the representative of the governor, Tony Alford, will meet. We'll discuss those fluid changes as we move forward and continue to do the things they need to do to make it happen here in the area. For the entire crew at HTV, I'm Martin Falls. Have a good night. We'll see you around the corner.
Since 1911, the Pierre Parts Store has been your one-stop shop. Family owned and operated for 4 generations, the Pierre Parts Store has served the community by providing groceries, hardware, home products, and much more, including a full-service lumber yard. Now, we've added the Thibodaux store to the family with the same values and service we've delivered for over 100 years. The Pierre Parts Store and the Thibodaux store, our family serving your family.